All right, welcome to Dueling Scalpels, everyone. This is Dr. Abhishek Parmar. With me, as always, is my good old buddy, Dr. Douglas Corey Campbell. How you doing?
Doing all right. How you guys doing?
Doing all right. Big D. Should we do Big D? Did I just don't do Big
No,
D?
let's not
Don't
do
like
that.
Big D.
Let's not do that.
All right. I don't know. All right. So, what are we talking about? Corey brought up the topic for this episode, everyone, because he wants to battle.
Yes,
I feel like you have an agenda, and
a
there's
little
something you
bit.
want to
I
say.
gotta get some things off my chest about medicine before
Oh
we move
man,
forward.
I'm so scared of what's about to happen today. Should we do some banter? If you look in the show notes, chapter titles, usually the beginning they're like, yeah, and then there's banter for a few minutes before we actually get to a topic. Is there any,
If you got something to go with, let's go.
is it bantering? There's always the World Cup, man. Did you watch those matches yesterday?
Beautiful match, man. Beautiful
I
match.
guess this episode won't come out for a while, so it's going to be dated. So we should talk about what matches it was. That
The
Argentina France final was wild. With
Mbappe had a hat trick. It was crazy, man.
Can you believe both Mbappe and Messi had hat tricks and had to go to
I could
penalty
not believe
kicks?
that. Could not believe that.
What a great World Cup final! Because that's when this episode's going to air. Wouldn't that be crazy? That'd be so crazy if we called it. There's got to be something we could win by like guessing two
One
hat
of us would
tricks.
have to be a time traveler to be able to call a match of that magnitude
I
with
wonder
that
what
kind of scoreline.
Vegas would say something like, "I don't. We should get $1 million. Then we don't have to podcast anymore."
Exactly. If you get two hat tricks in one World Cup final, and you picked it 2 weeks before, that's like jackpot. That's like winning those March Madness brackets, you know.
Yeah, but no, I was kind of surprised that Argentina didn't crush Switzerland. But anyway.
Why, man? Switzerland's like a great defensive team, man. That's their whole identity there. So they were a perfect matchup for a team like Argentina.
Whatever. You're just exposing my American.
I was actually surprised because I've considered England a huge disappointment that they actually pulled through and won a game when it mattered most.
That's not a hot take at all. Everyone's surprised.
No, but you know what though? When I was watching that game and you're watching it and you watch Norway, they're doing really good in the first half and then they wilt in the second half. You're like, I guess that's what happens when you take Vikings to 100-degree weather. They stop rowing. So I don't know if that's mean or
I
not.
I don't think that.
Big man Holland just kind of quit in the 100th minute. He's like, I can't do this anymore. I'm gonna die out here.
I can't believe it. I mean, you know what I was the main thing I was surprised by. I didn't know Norway had 6 million people. That's it.
Dude, I mean,
I didn't know it was such a
Norway,
ton. But but Norway is also like the international, like Winter Olympic, historical, forever winner of most medals, right?
they are the Winter
That's
Olympics.
crazy to think about that, right? A tiny country of 6 million people is just so athletically gifted that,
No, it's
you know,
not. It's not. I mean, first of all, Norway, man, if they're not going to be the kings of the North, then who are they, man? They gotta destroy a Winter Olympics. I mean,
but I mean, like Russia's right there. I mean, Sweden or Finland it's just as likely as one of those countries could be, right?
true. I think Sweden does pretty good in the Winter Olympics. Don't do they not?
I don't know. I have no idea. I can't.
All I know is when I watch the
Usually I'll
Winter
just
Olympics,
BS some answer, but on the podcast, I feel like we have to have real data. So,
all I gotta say, when you watch the Winter Olympics opening ceremonies, there's like half of Norway is marching, and then like they have like some Caribbean team that has three guys that are like coming down. Some Pacific Island team has three guys. Like one of them's carrying the flag, the other two guys are just there. So I don't know if the winner. I am surprised that that country's so small though, considering it punches way outside of its weight class as far as like physical, being known
yeah,
athletics. They're also like one of
yeah.
the richest countries in the world because of their oil. So
Hmm.
I think
It's
their
not about the
national wealth
oil.
fund's like top five investors in America.
All right. Well, since this is your baby, do you want to tell us what we're talking about today? What are you mad about? You're mad about
Yeah,
something. I
so
know there's something you're mad
today's
about.
topic is medical research, and it's all about the whole origins of medical research, how it influences our decision making, how the sausages are made per se. And my problem with it, because I got serious problems with it, because I think in the end, some of it just doesn't feel genuine to me. But I'm not in research, and I chose not to be. And you're a professor in surgery, so you research is part of your job description. So I thought it'd be a good topic to kind of explore on both sides. So
Well, yeah, I think it's a good idea to discuss because I'm in academic surgery and Corey was in community practice. So I think you're hitting on kind of probably a clash between those two groups of surgeons. Like, in what you do, like you kind of have to be very pragmatic and do what you got to do. And I think a lot of practicing surgeons look down at nerdy academic surgeons. Um, I think it's a good idea to go back to uh education, I think, for a second, because I agree with you that there is a problem in medical research, and it was probably for a different reason than what you were going to say. Like, I don't think physicians get enough training in how to interpret scientific literature like a real scientist would. So I complained about this in another episode about how bad our training is. But one of the problems is we don't really get enough training in how to interpret science. So I actually did a master's in clinical science when I was in research as a resident, and I actually learned basic statistics. I learned how to conduct, health outcomes research, and I realized that at that point I was like 3 years out of medical school, and like I don't none of that, all that stuff was new to me.
well, I did some research in residency, but I didn't do a comprehensive study of the idea of research. But I will say that you think about medical research, you think it's all based on a scientific principle. And the scientific principle is you ask a question, you research to see if that question has already been answered, you form an idea of what you think the answer is going to be, then formulate an experiment to, see if that answer is in true or not, and then analyze it and finally get it, you know, reviewed by peers or whoever. I don't think medicine does that for 80% of research. I don't think it works that way. And because it doesn't work that way, it doesn't do research. It doesn't do the scientific principle. And the reason I say that is because starting off with the question, I don't think most medical research starts with a question. I think it starts with what question can I ask as opposed to what question should I ask. And if you think about it that way, you get a lot of research about questions nobody ever asked. And the reason is because it's the easiest, it's the lowest hanging fruit. Because it seems to me in medicine, quantity is a lot more important than quality. Meaning, like, if I can pump out 5 research papers in the span of 2 years, that's a lot better than answering one question everybody's had on their mind that takes 4 years to answer, because most people don't have 4 years to wait to see if all the work they put in is going to produce results. So I think because of that, most of the research you will see, because of the outside pressures on doing medical research, winds up being answers to questions nobody asked.
Oh yeah, 1,000% agree. I mean, I'm in it, so I mean, I think you described health outcomes research kind of in a nutshell. It's like, what can you feasibly answer? And it's not really the scientific method. And I think if you ask yourself why is that, it's because people in medicine, 80% of the people who conduct research, um, there are requirements of, or I guess there's an agenda of what they're trying to do. Like when you're a resident, like my story is I was in the lab and I was just trying to understand how to do research. That was one of the agendas I had. How to do research well, which is a good altruistic one. But then like a really selfish one, like I just want to publish a ton to pad my stats so I can get a good fellowship so I can be the type of surgeon I want to do. And
Yes,
that's what most people are doing, let's be real.
that's what
And
I.
yeah, I mean, and it's an interesting phenomenon because being in academic surgery, I mean, that's every day. I mean, it's just the norm. It makes sense that you want someone to be in your fellowship or do your training, and let's say they've done lots of high quality research. And so it makes sense for them to have publications and high quality research. But the product of that mindset is that people will game the system and you just try to publish as much as you can with whatever you can as fast as you can. And there are a lot of, I think, professors in surgery who are on the other side and are chairs and leaders in the department. and now they're decrying this whole system after they've made it because they
Yeah.
don't need it anymore, right? Like, and they want quality research and they want randomized controlled trials. When I started, I wanted to do a really serious technical study on a certain way to close people's abdominal walls together. And I talked to one of the surgeons at UAB that's done clinical trials. He's like, yeah, it's like $5-6 million. I'm like, oh, cool.
Yeah, exactly. The money is the biggest part of it. I hate to knock on people who's doing research out there, but retrospective clinical studies are not real research because there's no experiment. You didn't experiment on anything. You didn't change a variable and see what happens. All you did was collate data and see if there's some information there that could be made
Can
published. That's
I need to say something also because I agree 100%. The worst thing though about people trying to retrospective studies is now they're trying to employ some kind of fancy statistical tricks that are somehow supposed to take the bias all away. Everyone, kids out there who are doing research, propensity score modeling is fake. It doesn't do anything. It's the same thing as a logistic regression model. It sounds cooler, it'll get you published more, but it does not change or affect the bias inherent in a retrospective comparison of two groups. That's a really specific criticism, I know, but
he got deep in the ocean for that one.
I
He's
get mad.
like,
Hey, I got a platform. There's a mic right here, and so I'm using it for this thing. I get so
listen,
mad about it. Everyone, every journal loves that stuff. You'll immediately get accepted.
well, here's
for
the thing
fancy
too. If
anyway.
you ever read medical, like first of all, like I said, medical research is a farce because if you just go to some kind of article or journal, especially in surgery, more than half of the articles are retrospective, and then they give us some kind of fake apology about, well, if this was a prospective study, we get more information. It's like, well, why don't you do that study? Well, because that study costs $4 or $5 million and it takes about 2 to 3 years to do, and I'm 26, I got my life ahead of me. I'm not trying to waste time doing that, and that's the problem because nobody wants to waste the time to do the medical research that it would take to do something like that. But I think meta-analysis are kind of that's like you just getting to what you said and talking about meta-analysis. Meta-analysis is when your research is taking a bunch of other researches and cramming them together like some kind of financial instrument in the 2008 financial crisis and coming out with something new that says something different than the dozens of papers you read like everybody else. And it's like a synopsis of a synopsis almost. And who can honestly believe that somebody who is trying to be a doctor their entire life also had the time to make 5 papers worth talking about? Like it never happened because if you want to make good research, the number one thing that most people don't have is money, and the second thing that most people in our industry don't have is time. And since we don't have either one of those, whatever comes out the other end is going to be pure garbage. And that is the volume of what's happening out there. It's just pure garbage because, like, hey man, I'm trying to be I'm trying to be an assistant professor over here. Who's got time to secure $8 million worth of NSF funding and like?
Assistant's the lowest rank for everyone who's keeping score. I'm associate, so I'm up there a little bit just for keeping score.
Yeah, but
you start an assistant. Just saying.
But my whole thing is, like I said, the pressures around medical research makes it where medical research gets broken down into 2 parts, and both of them are very sinister in their objectives. Number one is for career advancement in academic medicine. And the thing about academic medicine that's harder than regular academics is that they're expecting you to have a full-time doctor job on the side, I guess. I don't know. And then the second one is industry-funded research, which has a whole host of problems. The money's not the problem at that point. It's the whole, why are we doing this? And if it's a negative study, what are we doing with that? Are we chucking it? Are we burying it? So with all that being said, those are the 2 places you're probably going to get the bulk of your research. And if that's the volume of your literature, then you have to sift through a whole lot of, like, I don't know, for lack of a better term, non-quality work to get quality. And
so let's be fair though. I mean, I think there are actual serious surgeon scientists out there. It's fun to say everything is trash and it's all trash. I think most of it is trash. I'll give you that. But I think there is some still quality research being done, but it's the minority, right?
Well, like here's another way of looking at it. Medicine has a ton of conferences for a ton of different levels of doctors, all the way from every doctor is welcome to general surgeons to bariatric surgeons to hernia surgeons. There's not enough research for all those places to have a conference every year. But somehow every year you go there and there's dozens of posters and there's dozens of presentations and you're like, is the field really moving that fast? It's like, no, it's not. It can't be. There's not that much to discuss 12 months from last year, but we find a way to fill these coffers up. So that's my main problem with medical research, and I hate to say that to Professor Palmer over here, whose entire career is based upon it. But
No,
defend
I mean,
it.
it's
Defend
not,
it.
Oh, defend the system? I'm in the system, and I agree with most of what you've already said. This isn't a very dueling episode. I mean, I think it's problematic, but it's also the reality of what we're doing here. And I think that there are a lot of us, most of us, I think, still have good intentions. And I think my situation, I published really heavily when I was in research. At the beginning of my 2 years in the lab, like I published a lot of crap. It was really bad. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I came up with really interesting ideas, and I learned how to do pretty good health outcomes research, I think, and published I think some pretty interesting papers towards the end. So I mean, I think that's possible, and I think you can within the confines of the system and everything you just mentioned about not having time, not having money, and wanting to do good health outcomes research. I think outside of for those of us for the people who don't understand research, the gold standard is a randomized controlled trial, right? And that's what we're kind of
That
comparing
is the
everything
gold
to.
standard.
That's kind of what you said. You have a priori hypothesis before you start everything. You have some ideas and you have to test it. But again, that takes years and
A
lots of money.
randomized controlled trial for anything in medicine will require at least 3-4 years, because the process of even getting what you're proposing approved is going to take 6 to 12 months. And then once you got it approved, you got to get it funded, which will take you an additional 6 to 12 months to write the grants to get the funding. And then you actually have to run the trial and
This is the problem in academic medicine. It's like, I think, and I don't know about PhDs, but it seems like there's this whole idea of first author, last author, middle author, whatever, of where you're at. But you know, academic medicine just rewards numbers. People scroll down your list of publications and look at the number. Is the bullet point, is that 27 or is it 5? That's kind of the reality of the situation. Like, wow, this person has a ton of publications, and you go through and you look at the publications and where they're studying. It's like a lot of it is like, hey, this is some stuff that we saw happen in 10 people, and that was cool. Like you just want to crank out papers and get published. I mean, but again, I think the good mentors in this reality of academic medicine at least try to teach how to conduct responsible research and how to interpret it well. So when you get out in the real world, you can interpret it, because that's the real big problem, is that you're smart enough to realize that most of this is fluff, most of this is crap. But the average doctor, it's like they'll read an abstract, or even that, just skim the abstract, and the abstract says, "Oh, hey, you did this and it worked, and this is good. People live longer. Give everybody aspirin, whatever." Like, but you have to be more critical to actually do what really matters, is apply this to patients in the end, right? So,
well,
yeah, no, I'm with you.
here's a question I have, and I'm trying to figure it out, because like I said, medical research is a little bit suspect to me. But if you were to have a randomized controlled trial based in surgery, and you had a great idea, how long would it take you from right now, that idea, to the day where people were practicing what you were preaching?
Oh, till people were practicing, that's a different story. So that's
Like,
like
if you
20
said
20 years.
if you said wearing a 3-pointed revolutionary hat in the OR has improved outcomes, how long would it take to get it approved to wear 3-corner hats in the OR, and
I
then
mean,
have that
yeah,
published, and then go to
yeah.
a conference and say, I wear 3-pointed hats, and I'm telling you, 20% improvement in patient outcomes with the 3-corner hat. Our next study is to put a musket in the OR in the side.
That's been studied. It takes like 15, 20 years after study, like for actual implementation. I guess it also depends on the intervention, right? I mean, like the coded trial, we all know what year is it? I looked this up because I had to search for, hey, I had as my man Spruce. Spruce, are there any good papers out there? I think you said the coded trial. The coded trial is a good trial. That's the antibiotics for appendectomy study.
Mm-hmm.
So antibiotics are equivalent to appendectomy for people, So that's a big deal. That's cool, right?
Mm-hmm.
Landmark trial. The Dakota trial was 2020. So 2026, like right away, people are into it. Let's throw some antibiotics at these people, and it changed practice. But that's a pretty simple intervention, right? So I think it depends on the intervention for sure. But people are slow to. I mean, I actually did. I published a paper on this. People are slow to adopt techniques. So the Stitch trial was a major trial in hernia surgery to prevent incisional hernias after surgery, and I wanted to implement that at UAB, and I got a lot of resistance from a lot of surgeons, and they were not into it. And I started asking myself why. So I did an interesting qualitative study, a mixed method study, which is the other trick, where you just do some interviews and you get some people's opinions on things. But it's all you can do in this day and age because I couldn't do the $6 million study that showed efficacy. So I just had to try to ask an interesting question that I could do, which was, why aren't surgeons doing this? And it's a really deeply ingrained thing that goes back to training and goes back to the psychology of doing something new. And it's a lot of things that they're keeping people from adopting new things. But, it's 20 years from today till when, the Parmar hat maneuver of walking in the OR.
I just think when you look at the numbers, I'm not talking about, like I said, we talked about the time, we talk about the money, but if you look at the money, like if a pharmaceutical company has to spend $2 billion worth of research and development to make a drug, which is twice the amount it costs to build the Dallas Cowboys Stadium to make a drug, and it takes 10 to 20 years to make that drug. I'm telling you, there aren't many surgeons who are in charge of or who run a lab or who have research funding a fraction of that. And so the idea is like you cannot be possibly building anything a fraction of that size because it's just it doesn't make sense. Why would it cost them so much to make something and you so little to make something equally important as far as the changing of medicine?
We probably should have also said at the beginning, like, I would not describe myself as a surgeon scientist or academic research. Like I did that in training, and I'm a high volume clinical surgeon. Like I do research, I publish on interesting things. I do a lot of retrospective studies in health outcomes research. But so, I mean, we should also say that I think you and I are both kind of on the extreme end, but I think our points are valid. I'd be one of these days we should get one of my buddies who's a serious researcher at UAB to comment. But I think there's a lot of problems with the structure of academic medicine. I completely endorse everything. I co-sign what Corey said.
Here's another one. Here's a research topic. You know how medical research gets into the media? You get it in newspapers, you get it in TV shows where you talk about some new medical research. And 8 times out of 10 is always about diet, right? And my thing about diet research is that it changes constantly. And I'm like, that should be easy to figure out. That you should be able to do a simian or porcine model where you could definitively say if eggs are good or not, or if fish is good or not. And the fact that it flip-flops makes me so angry because I'm like, if we wanted to know that answer, I don't think it'd be hard because doing research about diet, I'm not saying most of the research on diet is all about surveys about what do you eat. And I'm like, why don't you just get like a pig and feed it whatever you want and see how long they live? I mean, that's not hard. It costs money.
There's so many variables you can't control for in a human person. Right?
That's what I'm saying. Do a porcine model.
But who cares about a pig? I don't care what's gonna happen. Like, it's not a human.
They have the same cardiovascular. They use porcine models for cardiovascular all the time.
You can't be coming out with
simian model. Simian model.
I mean,
is it unethical to feed?
To say we just all came from a bunch of monkeys?
Well, is it unethical to feed a bunch of monkeys Snicker bars and see what happens? Is that so terrible? We'll know what Snicker bars do. Instead of always coming out every 5 to 10 years. Instead of coming out
Second
every
one
5 to 10 years and recanting research that was already done on that particular
well,
subject.
that's the problem. Like, you never should have taken that stuff at face value anyway, because it's like we don't know. Like, it's nonsense. You want to do a little rapid fire now? Hot
Sure.
takes. All right. 30 seconds. What do you think? P value should disappear?
Yeah, probably.
Oh, really? Interesting. Do tell.
I mean, I think people use p-value to make things legitimate when they're really not. And I think they also use p-value as a way to justify the research as opposed to like justifying the existence of the research, meaning there's a difference, but like who cares? But you have to explain what p-value even is so that people understand that.
Okay, so p value kind of starts with this concept of um, what is the likelihood that whatever you found out is due to chance? And a p value less than 5%, that there's a less than 5% chance that this is just, whoops, just chance that whatever you found happened. And that's where most studies say is like the kind of standard for acceptance. So if it's a 6% chance or 5.1% chance that what you found is not a true difference, then studies don't say it's significant enough. Did I explain that
Mm-hmm.
pretty well?
Yeah.
Um, I mean, I think it's a standard. It's kind of arbitrary, but it is what it is. I don't know. So there's a 95% chance of what you found is legitimate and interesting and scientifically sound. I think I'm cool
P
with it.
p-value is to me, it is a trick for people who don't really understand statistics to trick people who don't understand statistics. And the reason I say that is because statistical significance doesn't mean anything. That's why you can do statistical significance on things you don't understand at all, because it just says that these two groups are different. It doesn't tell you why they're different, which is the whole point of the research. And the other thing is too, that 5%, well, if you do a bunch of papers or a bunch of variables, you can get something that is statistically significant. Meaning
Oh
like
yeah.
if you have a study that has 10 variables in it and you're like, none of them were statistically significant except this one, well, there's a 50-50 chance that one wasn't significant either. Like, because you did 10 of them in a row. So I don't know. Like I said,
Well, and studies can also be overpowered. So if you do a study in, like, 500,000 patients, and in one group the average age was 65, in another group the average age was 64, there'll be a statistically significant difference between those groups in age, but that's not clinically significant, right? They're not really different. So, but anyway, that's a different story. All right, how about this? Number two, case re- case reports shouldn't count towards promotion.
no. Show and tell is the lowest form of academic research. That's what I call
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I agree. That's show and tell.
We need to explain what case studies are.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So a case report, um, actually, case report is worse than a case series. A case report is like just one thing, like, hey, we did this one time and this is it. A case
What's the
series,
most famous case?
the most famous case report?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Phineas Gage.
Oh, yeah, that's great. But see, you know that. I mean, it can be interesting. Tell the world about Phineas Gage.
So Phineas Gage is a case study from the 19th century where a man working on a railroad shot like 3 foot rod through his skull and lived to tell about it. And the physicians at the time were so taken aback by the fact that this man had a ghastly wound that he survived from in the 19th century that they decided to write up his whole life from then on out and how it worked out. And
Yeah.
it did not work out well for Phineas. He was definitely changed from his whole experience.
Oh, yeah. He basically had like a frontal lobotomy, right? Like he was kind
Yeah,
of
he had a like I said, a 3 foot rod went straight through his skull and he lived, but he was not a nice man afterwards.
yeah, he was. Well, that's interesting. All right, how about this? Every surgeon should do research.
mm, I don't know how I feel about that. Probably
You
no.
can't. Is that a pass? You can't pass. This is the
I said
game.
no. I say no
Okay, 30 seconds. Why?
because, like I said, I don't think. I think medical research doesn't make you a better physician. I think medical research literacy would, but you don't have to do research to be literate. So
Yeah.
it
Good.
can kind of
That's a
it's a
good answer.
diversion for people
Yeah,
who know what they want to do.
I think yeah, if you're equating doing research to being like literate and understanding research, I'd say yes, but the real thing is that you need to understand how to understand it, I think. Ooh, AI, my man Spruce. Is Spruce going to replace half of academic writing?
Yes, because half of it was rubbish to begin with. So
It's
I
so
mean,
easy. So
I
easy to
mean,
have Spruce just do it better.
because like I said, most research is born out of some pressure to do something else. And that pressure means if I can limit the amount of time I spend doing this, then I will do that. So if I can have Spruce look at some spreadsheets and come up with a 5-page thing that will get published, I'm doing that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just
Oh
the
yeah.
most natural human thing ever.
I mean, you already, like I do my own analyses. Like I use SAS as the analytical software I use, and that's just me punching in code to do analyses. It's like I don't know. I don't draw a distinction between doing that versus be like, "Hey, Spruce, do a chi-square test." But I don't know. Maybe I'm a bad person. The rest of these we actually already did. Meta analyses are overrated. Systematic reviews shouldn't exist. We have too many journals. I think we all agree on that. So,
But
um,
do you think journals should cost money or you think they should be free inherently?
we talked about this already, but the number of publications has gone up by a million in the past decade. 59% increase from 2 million to 3 million in a decade. Um, Open access is growth. So open access is where if you pay money, you can publish in these journals and it's free.
Hmm.
I don't know. I think that's problematic because we didn't talk about peer review, but when you publish, like other surgeons or other doctors have to review what you write and say it's good and worth being published. Um, it's not the best guardrail, but it's a guardrail. I think if it's free, like you're just paying, like I mean, then it's just about you have some money, you just pay your way into publications, and that is clearly not without value, right? So,
Well, I mean, there's one way to look at it. The other thing I was thinking about is that I would say 80% of medical research done in America is either funded by the U.S. government or by pharma or by industry. And as a result, the parts that's funded by the U.S. government, why do we pay to hear what you did with our money? I mean, should be publicly accessible if you're using NSF funding to do the research.
yeah. All right. So Spruce wants me to have a closing question. So, despite everything we complained about today, are you still optimistic about science?
Medical science?
Yeah.
No, I think medical science. I think you know what I think honestly. I think medical science is going the way of the internet. The internet was great when it first came out, and then now it's like this wasteland of like things are automated to the point of nothingness. So I think as it grows, I think it becomes less and less useful because more and more of it's not real. That's
Yeah.
what I think.
No,
I
I mean,
think that
yeah, I mean, I think there's a crisis, and I don't know. I mean, I asked Bruce to find the most high impact clinical trials over the past decade, and most of them, I mean, they're not relevant to me. Like a lot of it's in rectal cancer, and a lot of it's in therapy, like you said, like timing of drugs and chemotherapy, and not really surgical studies, except for the CODA trial. That's the only one that actually impacted my practice. But anyway, I think this has been good. So this actually might be a good controversial one. People are going to come at us in the comments if anyone's actually listening.
hey man, I'm here for the drama on this one. I want all the smoke on medical research because somebody have to prove to me that they're like a real scientist and a doctor.
I mean, if you start crunching the numbers, talk everyone who has a question, ask Bruce or your AI friend of the day, and look into the volume. It's not that all of a sudden the past 2 decades magical, excellent, high volume, quality studies are being published by the millions.
And
Um,
actually, the amount of money that goes into medical research has gone down in the last year or two. They,
yeah,
thanks to
well, that's for sure.
our man in office who cut funding to the.
I love when you try to be PC. That's good. That was really genuine. That's the authenticity that people come here for. On that
Well, it
note,
happened. It really did happen. He did cut funding.
Speaking of cutting, let's cut this episode. Let's call it. Is that a good way to end it? Boom.
That's good.
That was clever of me, I thought. All right.